Hesitate for not supporting my friend's decision to end her marriage. Background. I'm a 30-year-old woman named Claire, and this story revolves around my best friend Jessie, who is also 30. We've been friends for over 15 years, having met in high school. I've always supported her through various ups and downs while she has been a significant part of my life. Jessie married her husband Dan 2 years ago, and they have a beautiful daughter named Lily, who is now 2 years old. Over the last few months, Jessie has been expressing doubts about her marriage. She often shares her frustrations and feelings of being unfulfilled, claiming that Dan isn't meeting her emotional needs. Jessie has always been expressive and has never backed away from confronting issues head-on, but I noticed that her grievances started to escalate. Jessie often mentioned how Dan works long hours to provide for the family, which sometimes leaves her feeling alone. I sympathize, as I know balancing work and family life is difficult. However, Jessie also started to bring up some stark criticisms of Dan, saying that he's selfish and doesn't understand her needs or desires. The conflict. One evening, we met for our usual coffee date, and Jessie sat down with a serious expression. "I'm thinking about leaving Dan," she said. I sat there, stunned. "You can't be serious," I replied, hoping to spark a logical discussion. "What about Lily?" She dismissed my concerns, saying, "I'm not happy. What good is it for Lily to grow up in a home where her mother is miserable?" I understood the sentiment, but I felt incredibly uncomfortable with the idea of Jessie potentially leaving Dan, especially without giving him a fair chance to address her concerns. Dan is a good man. I've seen him work hard for their family and weave genuine love into his interactions with both Jessie and Lily. I felt that Jessie was being impulsive. "Maybe you should talk to him, Jess. Open the lines of communication before making such a huge decision." But she waved me off, asserting that she had already tried talking to him before and he always dismissed her feelings. I tried to express that relationships require effort from both sides and that sometimes frustrations can cloud one's judgment. Over the following weeks, Jessie became increasingly resolute. She told me she was done trying and hinted that she had already discussed the possibility of separation with a lawyer. I felt my heart racing as she divulged her plans, but I tried to remain calm and logical. "Okay, but what if you regret it? What if you leave and realize that you could have worked things out? You've invested so much into this marriage," I pleaded, but she seemed unfazed. Jessie claimed that life was too short to be living in an unhappy situation. As time went on, my discomfort turned into a kind of delusional anger. I felt like Jessie wasn't taking everything into consideration. From my point of view, she had a family, a stable relationship, and a partner who genuinely cared for her and their child. The climax. Ultimately, Jessie decided to move out. She secured a small apartment and planned to separate officially. I was absolutely devastated. I felt torn between my loyalty to her and my belief that she was making a huge mistake. I knew I had to confront her, but how? Our next coffee date turned turbulent very quickly. I asked her, "Jess, are you sure this is what you want? Are you prepared for the repercussions? There is so much to lose here." "Claire, why are you so against me?" she snapped. "You're supposed to be my friend. You should support me in my decision." "I do support you, but I just wish you were being more level-headed about this," I argued back. "You are throwing away everything you've built together." That led to a shouting match. Jessie accused me of being judgmental and for not recognizing her suffering. She told me I was acting like I didn't understand what she was going through. Feeling overwhelmed, I finally said, "I don't want to be part of this if you're not going to talk to Dan, Jess. I think you're making a terrible mistake and I can't sit here and cheer you on while you do it." That was the turning point. Jessie's face contorted with rage and hurt. "I can't believe you. I've always relied on you to be there for me after everything. Are you really taking Dan's side?" "I'm not taking anyone's side," I said, feeling guilty but standing my ground. "I'm just looking out for you." After that conversation, Jessie distanced herself. She became less communicative and eventually stopped reaching out altogether. It made me sad because I cherished our friendship so deeply. As time passed, I saw online that Jessie had filed for divorce while actively documenting her journey on social media. She sought support from new friends she found in the single-parent community. It hurt to see my best friend publicly discussing her pain while she seemingly shut me out. I felt abandoned. All the years of support I had given her felt like it meant nothing. Eventually, after months of silence, Jessie sent me a text nearly 6 months after our last meeting. It was an apology, asking if we could meet up. I hesitated at first, but agreed, because there was always a part of me that missed our friendship. At our reunion, there were awkward silences, and it took a while for us to warm up. Finally, Jessie broke the ice. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. I don't know. I hope you can forgive me." I took a deep breath. "I'm here for you, but I don't agree with your choices." Jessie nodded, looking pained. "I know. I needed to go through that alone, but my head was clouded. I wish I had handled everything differently." While I appreciated her honesty, I still held a lot of weight from the debates we had. I felt guilt, because part of me knew I could have been there more for her, but at the same time I also felt justified in my concerns about her choice. Resolution. Eventually, we slowly rebuilt our friendship, but it was never quite the same. I felt the rift that came from not supporting her decisions. While I could understand on some level why she chose to separate from Dan, it never made it easy for me to come to terms with it. In hindsight, I wonder if I was right to stand my ground, or if I should have accepted her decisions wholeheartedly. The memory of our agony-filled argument still lingers, and I can't shake the guilt of possibly alienating her in one of her toughest times. So, am I the asshole for not supporting my friend's decision to end her marriage? Or did I have a right to voice my concerns? Ayata for exposing my best friend's lies to her parents. Background: I'm a 29-year-old woman named Lily. I've known my best friend Sarah since we were kids. We did everything together. We went through high school, college, and now we both live in the same city, with Sarah working as a graphic designer and me as a marketing manager. As close as we are, our lives have taken different paths, especially regarding our families and how we handle our upbringing. While my family is supportive and straightforward, Sarah's upbringing was very different. Sarah comes from a wealthy family who have always placed enormous expectations on her. They expect her to be successful, get married, and live a perfect life that reflects their social status. At times it seemed like Sarah had it all: designer clothes, luxury cars, and a seemingly carefree lifestyle, but I knew underneath it all she was struggling with her mental health and the pressure from her parents. The incident. Over the past year, Sarah's been increasingly distant. She would often cancel our plans at the last minute or show up barely wanting to engage with me. I assumed it was work stress or personal issues she was dealing with, but I had no clue how bad it was until one day I received a call from her mother, Martha. Martha called me out of the blue, concerned about Sarah. She said that she noticed an unusual change in Sarah's behavior. She was more withdrawn and seemed unhappy. Knowing how important appearances are to Martha, her concern felt genuine. I assured her that Sarah was okay, but did mention that I thought she could use some support. After our conversation, I texted Sarah, wanting to know what was going on. She brushed it off, but seemed upset that I had spoken to her mom. I told Sarah I was just trying to be a good friend and that her mom was genuinely worried about her. That's when Sarah revealed something shocking. She had been lying to her parents about her life. The lies. As Sarah opened up, I learned that she had created an elaborate facade about her life. To her parents, she painted a picture of a successful designer with a bright future, boasting about high-profile projects, when in reality she had been fired from her job months ago and was working as a waitress to make ends meet. The stress of maintaining this image had taken a serious toll on her mental health, and while I could empathize with her situation, I was deeply concerned. I pleaded with Sarah to come clean to her parents. I emphasized that lying wouldn't make her problems go away, and that seeking help was a sign of strength, not weakness. But Sarah was adamant that she couldn't face them. She was terrified of disappointing them, of shattering the illusion she had built up over the years. Instead, she asked me to keep her secret and not reach out to her parents. The decision. Weeks passed and I watched Sarah spiral deeper into her web of lies. Her health deteriorated. She lost weight and started isolating herself even more. I constantly found myself at a crossroads. Should I continue to support her in her deceit, or should I be honest with her parents, who could potentially help Sarah? I wrestled with my conscience for days, and I finally made the decision that I believed was best for Sarah. I contacted Martha. I didn't do this lightly and spent hours agonizing over it. I remembered all the times Martha and I had spent together, how she treated me with kindness, and how worried she was about Sarah. I hoped that involving her parents would help Sarah face her reality. I arranged a meeting with Martha and explained everything. I revealed Sarah's job loss, her struggles, and how she had been lying to them for quite some time. I told her about Sarah's mental health and urged Martha to reach out to her. I wanted her to understand the gravity of the situation and that I wasn't trying to hurt Sarah but rather help her. Martha was shocked and understandably she was upset. She immediately decided to confront Sarah. I kind of knew this was going to blow up, but deep down, I hoped it would lead to a positive outcome. The fallout. The next day I received a furious text from Sarah demanding to know why I would betray her trust like that. I explained my reasons and how I thought her parents could provide the help she needed. Sarah accused me of ruining her life, saying she couldn't forgive me for what I had done. She told me I had no right to intervene in her family matters, and if she needed help, she would reach out herself. I felt a pang of guilt but refused to apologize for trying to help her. I believed that opening up communication with her parents was the only way to help her confront her struggles. However, the moment I sent that message, I also wished she could see that I was coming from a place of love and concern. What truly devastated me was the fallout. Sarah cut all ties, refusing to speak to me. I lost my best friend over what I thought was a noble deed. While I was trying to save her from herself, she perceived it as a betrayal. Over the following weeks, I tried reaching out multiple times, but my messages were left on read, and eventually I stopped trying. The aftermath. A month passed before Martha reached out to me again, this time with news. She told me that after the confrontation, they had gotten Sarah the help she needed. She was now attending therapy and had started to open up about her feelings regarding her work and life. There was a long way to go, but things were starting to improve with professional guidance. Despite being relieved for Sarah, I still felt conflicted. I was happy for her success, but disappointed that she'd written me off so easily. I confided in some mutual friends about the situation, hoping to gain insight, but opinions were divided. Some praised me for being the responsible friend, while others felt I had overstepped my boundaries. Finally, I decided to post in an ATA community online, seeking an outsider's perspective. I felt like sharing my story could shed light on whether I had crossed a line. Post on ITA user, Lily the Mediator title, ITA for exposing my best friend's lies to her parents. I am a 29-year-old woman who recently exposed my best friend's lies to her wealthy parents, believing it was necessary to help her. She had been struggling with mental health issues while pretending to have a successful career when, in reality, she had lost her job and was working as a waitress. When I told her mother about what was happening, it led to a confrontation, and my friend cut me off completely. Now I'm stuck questioning if I did the right thing. So, Reddit, AITA. ITA for not attending my sister's wedding after she denied my request. Characters Claire, 30. The narrator, a passionate artist who struggled to make ends meet. Lily, 28. Claire's sister, a traditionalist who values family above all but has a practical approach to life. David, 32. Lily's fiancé, a steady, reliable man who often acts as the mediator in family disputes. Mom, 60. Their mother, who often tries to keep peace in the family. Dad, 62. A more laid-back figure who supports whichever daughter is in the right. Life is full of choices, and those choices often lead to paths that can diverge or intertwine. My life, much like a painting, has bright strokes and dark shades, and the most pertinent choice I made recently has divided my family, leading to the question, am I the asshole? Let's rewind a few months to the spring of last year, when my sister Lily announced her engagement to David. I was thrilled for her. David is a great guy, reliable and caring, and he makes Lily happy. The proposal was lovely, and as the older sister I felt a wave of pride over how far my sister had come and how much I admired her. Yet, as the months passed and the wedding plans began to take shape, so did the tension between us. Lily has always been the practical one. She's a planner, and she likes everything to go according to schedule. I, on the other hand, am an artist. I paint with broad strokes of creativity, often leaving my life to chance and spontaneity. We've had our differences over the years, but I never thought they would affect this pivotal moment in our lives, especially not when the wedding theme was being chosen. As I was helping with the arrangements, I began to feel a twinge of discomfort. The wedding's theme was Alice in Wonderland, and while it sounded whimsical and fun, I noticed that Lily expected each member of the bridal party to dress in strict adherence to the theme. She organized everything down to the last detail, dictating colors, styles, and even the types of props that would be included in the decor. I am a strong supporter of self-expression. I believe that your attire should reflect who you are, not just what a theme dictates. With my aesthetic being deeply layered in artistic expression, I wanted my outfit to convey more of my identity than just a themed costume. I approached Lily, thinking that a little compromise would be possible. I suggested that I wear a vintage dress in pastel colors that could fit with a romantic aesthetic while still being true to myself. I understand where you're coming from, but this is my wedding, she said, shaking her head. We can't have loose interpretations of the theme, Claire. It needs to be cohesive. I felt my heart sink. I tried to explain that art is about expressing oneself, and I didn't want to feel like I was impersonating a character, but Lily was firm. Clearly, this was about more than just the dress. It was about her maintaining control over an event she had painstakingly planned. After several discussions that ended in frustration, I gave up. I would either have to conform to her wishes or not attend at all. The thought of not supporting my sister on her big day gnawed at me, but the idea of portraying something I wasn't became unbearable. As the wedding date approached, I wrestled internally. I felt isolated in my frustration. When I shared my concerns with our mother, she sighed and commented, "Well, dear, you know weddings are emotional for everyone. I think you should just wear what she wants." Meanwhile, Dad was more laid back. He said, "It's a wedding, Claire. You can always wear what you choose for events later." It was heartbreaking to feel as though I was being forced to choose between my sister's happiness and my own integrity. However, the final decision arrived on the 15th of July. I fired off a message to Lily and told her that I wouldn't be attending the wedding if I couldn't wear something that truly represented me. Lily responded with anger. "You can't be serious. You would hurt me like this over a dress? You're being incredibly selfish." Once messages escalated into a heated argument, I was bombarded with family's responses. Mom was disappointed, Dad shrugged, but Lily was devastated and furious, claiming I was undermining her special day. As the date approached, my phone buzzed with a mix of texts peppered with anger, sadness, and heavy disappointment. I felt horrible, knowing I might not be a part of such a monumental occasion in her life. But could I really sacrifice who I was for a day? The day of the wedding arrived. I stayed home and painted, the only solace I found in this mess. My brush danced across the canvas, colors swirling and colliding, echoing the chaos of my feelings. Deep down, I realized I had made my choice. Still, each stroke seemed heavy with regret, the absence of my sister's voice in my life weighing down. Weeks passed with silence filling the gaps where laughter used to echo between us. It wasn't until Lily's wedding photos popped up on family group chats that I truly felt the sting of my absence. She looked so beautiful in her gown, but then the photos flooded in of all her friends wearing the same themed costumes. I felt like an outsider in my own family. Eventually, our mum reached out to me, asking if I could put aside pride and talk to Lily. I sighed, feeling conflicted. Did I really want to approach it now? Finally, after weeks of weighing my thoughts, I decided I had to bridge this gap. I sent Lily a long text, apologizing for my absence, but reiterating my reasons for it, conveying my deep love for her. To my surprise, she replied quickly, "Claire, I missed you on my big day. It was everything I dreamed of, but it felt incomplete without you. I wish you could have been there. Can we talk?" That night, we arranged a phone call, and the awkwardness hung thick in the air. As we began to open up about our perspectives, I realized how much this had affected both of us. She shared her fears, the pressure of wanting everything perfect while trying to balance family expectations, and her feelings of betrayal when I chose to stand my ground. "I just wanted to create something beautiful, Claire. I didn't realize I was pushing you away," she tearfully admitted. "I didn't help either, and I'm sorry," I said, feeling relief churn inside as I finally expressed my truth. "I should have found a way to express my feelings without pulling away from you entirely. I wanted to celebrate with you. The wedding was so beautiful, but I just felt so lost." From that day on, things began to shift between us. It took time, and we went through some ups and downs, but we gradually started to rebuild our relationship. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, we began discussing how our unique lives could blend together in a way that honored both our differences and our bond. Fast forward a few months, and while the wedding remains a point of contention, it's now a lesson learned, a moment of growth for both of us. I'm still sorry that I missed her day, but that experience taught me something about communication and compromise, even if I wanted to hold fast to my beliefs. So, am I the asshole? I chose my own path, standing up for my beliefs, but at the cost of familial ties. In a way, I think we both were, but that is the complexity of love, family, and sometimes weddings. Edit. After I posted this, I've received so much warmth and understanding. It's been great to hear others' stories, some who did the same, some who chose to conform. I'm glad to share this piece of my life, and I hope to keep the dialogue between siblings going. Thanks for letting me share my story. A for turning my back on family for the sake of my happiness. My name is Sarah, and I'm a 29-year-old woman who has been wrestling with a dilemma that's been tearing me apart. I grew up in a traditional family that strongly valued loyalty, support, and the idea that family comes first, even when it felt like it was at the expense of my own happiness. Let me start from the beginning. I was the eldest daughter in a family of 3, 2 younger brothers, Michael, 25, and Jake, 22. My parents, especially my mom, always had high expectations for us. From a young age, we were taught that education and reputation in the community were paramount. There was no room for failure or disgracing the family. Throughout high school, I was the perfect daughter. I earned straight A's, led a few clubs, and even volunteered at local charities. But in private, I was crumbling beneath the pressure. My love for drawing and painting wasn't seen as an acceptable career. My parents envisioned a future where I was a lawyer or a doctor, so I hid my passion away. I pushed myself into pre-law and ended up in law school, even when I could feel my spirit fading. During my second year of law school, I met Alex. He was studying architecture, free-spirited, and had a perspective on life that filled me with joy. We connected immediately, sharing a love for art and a dream to travel the world. For the first time, I felt like myself, but my family would never approve of Alex, a dreamer who seemed to lack ambition in their eyes. Still, we fell in love. One rainy afternoon during our 3rd year, I took a leap of faith. I told my parents about him, bracing myself for an outburst. Their reaction was everything I had expected. My mother called him a distraction and a waste of time. She expressed her disappointment in me for dating someone who wasn't pursuing a real career. When I pushed back, standing up for Alex, my dad, a stern man, simply said, "If you choose him over your future, don't expect our support." For months, I was torn. Should I pursue my love for Alex and the life we envisioned, or should I adhere to my family's expectations? I tried to find a way to merge the two, but ultimately I chose love. I broke off contact with my family for my own sanity, pouring my heart into my relationship with Alex and reigniting my passion for art. Fast. Forward a couple of years, and Alex and I decided to get married. We were excited and ready to build our future. However, the gaps left by my family's absence felt immense on days like those. I hesitantly sent them an invitation to the wedding, expecting them to refuse. But to my shock, my mother replied, with an aggressive email that accused me of being selfish and ungrateful. As the wedding date approached, I had mixed feelings. Part of me wanted my family there for the most important day of my life, while another part couldn't bear the thought of their judgment, especially towards Alex. Eventually, I made the decision I didn't want them at the wedding. This moment was about me, Alex, and the life we were building together, without the weight of expectations pressing down on my shoulders. The decision had a fallout I was not prepared for. My family cut ties completely, convinced that I was making the largest mistake of my life. My siblings, who initially reached out expressing concern for me, were eventually convinced by my parents to disown me. I lost my brothers in the process. The familial bond dissipated with a few angry words and unreturned calls. A little over a year after our wedding, Alex and I moved to a new city, seeking fresh starts and new crafts for our passions. I started a small art studio specializing in workshops, while Alex got a job with a famous architectural firm. Life felt amazing until I received a series of cryptic messages from a mutual friend regarding my family's health issues, primarily my father's. Heart problems, guilt washed over me. I hadn't spoken to my family in a year, and questions of whether I'd made the right decision plagued my thoughts. Was my happiness worth their pain? Was I spinning my happiness into a continuous cycle of selfishness? I eventually spoke to Alex about it. His response was supportive yet firm. He understood my struggle but reminded me that my mental health came first. "You don't owe them anything," he said. "You've built a beautiful life from scratch. They may never accept it, but look at who you've become." At his encouragement, I made the difficult choice to reach out to my mother. I sat down, took a deep breath, and sent a heartfelt message. "Mom, I know you're hurt. I miss you too. Can we talk?" In less than 24 hours, I received a terse reply, firmly stating that my choice to marry Alex was a mistake and that it was too late for reconciliation. My heart shattered. It felt like a door slammed shut, echoing through my world. I suffered, silently, grappling with feelings of anger and resentment towards my family for not accepting my choices. During this time, I met a few other artists, and we created a small, vibrant community. We supported each other's creative endeavors and began planning local art shows together. I found the happiness I had so desperately missed, but the void my family left still felt present. Months later, I got a call from my brother, Jake. He was in tears. My father had undergone a serious health scare, and they weren't sure how he was doing. He reached out to ask if I could come home, but the words felt like a precipice where I could fall either way. I could return and potentially have my heart broken again, or I could stay firm in my decision to prioritize my happiness. In a moment of weakness, I agreed to visit. When I arrived, I was confronted with their judgment wrapped in concern. My mother's eyes were cold, and my father's sternness filled the room as he stood in his hospital gown, looking frail. "Why now, Sarah?" he asked, his voice hoarse. "Do you want to gloat about your life that we weren't part of?" I broke down. I tried to explain my decisions, the love I had found, and the art I was making, but they didn't want to hear it. They accused me of being selfish, the same way they always had. We had a heated argument, and I walked out of that hospital, my heart feeling heavier than ever. After leaving, the guilt came crashing down harder than I had felt in months. I started questioning everything once again. I was building a life, yet at the same time I was left feeling like a traitor. So here I am sharing my story, seeking some clarity. Eta for putting my happiness first. Is choosing love and a fulfilling life over family worth the constant ache in my heart? Should I continue to try to reach out, or should I accept that some bonds might remain broken? This holiday season has been particularly hard without my family, leaving me to grapple with whether I truly made the right choice. In the end, I continually strive to understand, did I prioritize my own happiness and define what that truly means? Was I right to walk away from a family that seemed to dictate my worth? Or was I wrong in thinking that I had the right to pursue a life built on love, creativity, and passion? As I reflect on it all, I ask you, dear reader, Aita. Ad for refusing to change my lifestyle for my partner's family. Context: I'm 29 years old and my name is Lydia. I live in a small but vibrant town where I've created a fulfilling life for myself. I'm a freelance graphic designer, which allows me a lot of flexibility with my time and creativity. I love my job, my friends, and my occasional adventures. I've made a name for myself by promoting sustainability and minimalism in my designs, and my lifestyle reflects that. I'm passionate about living simply, being eco-friendly, and reducing waste wherever possible. 2 years ago, I met Alex through mutual friends. He's charming with a great sense of humor and a love for adventure. He works in technology and often travels for his job. We hit it off immediately and fell in love quickly. Alex has a wonderful family, supportive, fun, and filled with great energy. His parents are traditional with strong values, and they expect certain things from their children, particularly when it comes to family gatherings and celebrations. As our relationship deepened, so did the pressures from Alex's family. They plan lavish get-togethers, complete with endless food, oversized decorations, and extravagance that often feels over the top to me. They thrive on celebration and deep family connection, which I have come to appreciate in a way. But at times, I find their expectations overwhelming. The conflict. Recently, Alex's sister got married, and his family planned an incredibly extravagant wedding. Knowing my values, Alex asked me to tone down my sustainable choices for this family event, suggesting that I dress differently, avoid talking about my views on minimalism, and just embrace the lavishness of the occasion. I understood he wanted me to fit in with his family, but I felt uncomfortable changing who I am to please them. During previous family gatherings, I had quietly navigated my vegan lifestyle and minimalistic philosophy, but I always felt like a fish out of water. Most of the family indulged in excess, and when I brought my own homemade salad or snacks to share, I could see the mild confusion on their faces. However, my attitude towards my lifestyle hasn't changed. I often choose to communicate my beliefs in a gentle manner, hoping to inspire them rather than criticize their choices. When the wedding day arrived, I chose to wear a stunning second-hand dress that I had spent weeks altering, knowing it would match my values without sacrificing my sense of style. I also packed a small vegan snack to keep me nourished throughout the day. Unfortunately, this didn't go over well. Alex's parents immediately noticed my unconventional outfit and my refusal to indulge in the gluttony of the buffet. During the reception, Alex was pressured by his family to convince me to join in the fun. His mother specifically asked why I couldn't just enjoy the day without worrying about calories, fashion, or sustainability. It led to a tense conversation where Alex defended me, stating that I was simply being myself. However, in that moment, I felt like the one ruining the family fun. The entire weekend felt off-kilter. I felt judged every minute. And at one point, Alex's father commented on a picture of my outfit, saying I looked like I was attending a funeral, not a wedding. I couldn't shake off the feeling of being an outcast, and when the night ended, I had reached my limit. We got into an argument on the car ride home. The argument, "Why couldn't you just dress up a bit more and enjoy yourself?" he questioned, clearly frustrated. I did dress up. I literally put effort into modifying a dress to make it fun and respectful of your family's traditions. But I can't conform to something I don't believe in, Alex. You know this. You always take things too far. They weren't asking you to abandon your values. Just lighten up. Lighten up? You mean pretend I'm someone I'm not? It's not the same. I want to be authentic, even in your family. This led to a much larger discussion. I never intended to reject Alex or his family, but I believed that being true to my values was essential. Alex, on the other hand, felt like my stance was a constant affront to his upbringing and his family's values. As we both vented our frustrations, I felt misjudged. Alex didn't understand the importance of my lifestyle, and I didn't feel he appreciated the sacrifices I'd made to be with him. Our discussion caught the attention of my close friend, who immediately offered her perspective. "You're both being stubborn," she said. "You can't ask Lydia to change who she is for your family. But Alex also has a right to feel supported in front of his loved ones." It was a tough pill to swallow. Was I really being unreasonable? Was I right to stand firm in my beliefs, or did that come at the cost of our relationship? The fallout. In the following weeks, things felt strained between Alex and me. While we still spent time together, the underlying tension was apparent. He would often make seemingly innocent comments about how his family found normal fun and how they believed I was excessively militant about my choices. It hurt to hear him speak like that. I felt misunderstood and singled out, which only led to more disagreements. The family dynamic had changed as well. I began to notice that some of them started avoiding topics that could lead to uncomfortable conversations, and there were multiple awkward moments when family members gossiped or made snide remarks either in favor of me or against my choices. Seeking external opinions. After weeks of contemplation, I decided to share my story on an online forum to gain perspective from others. I asked Eta for refusing to change my lifestyle for my partner's family. I recounted our relationship, the wedding incident, and how both of us interpreted values differently. I needed clarity, especially since many had differing opinions. Over the course of a few days, I received a flood of responses. Many users empathized with my situation. They praised my dedication to personal values and highlighted how crucial it was to remain true to oneself. They agreed that Alex's family should respect individual choices, even if they didn't resonate with their own. Others suggested that, as a couple, compromise was often necessary, and that sometimes small adjustments from both sides could improve relationships. A particularly insightful comment caught my eye. Balancing individual authenticity with family acceptance is tough, but it's key. If Alex loves you, he needs to communicate that with his family as well. This sparked something in me. I realized that while I felt tethered to my values, I also needed to address the communication gap in resolving our differences. If Alex was willing to stand by my side, we needed to approach this as a team rather than as opposing forces. The resolution. I decided to bring up the topic with Alex again after reading the comments. I expressed my feelings clearly, emphasizing that this isn't about rejecting his family, it's about harmonizing our identities. I appreciate your family and how much they care about integrating me into their lives. I just want you to see that I'm coming from a place of love and respect for myself, but I'd love for us to find ways that allow both our worlds to coexist beautifully. Alex sighed, the tension on his face easing as he listened. You're right. I think I've been caught in the middle. I want you to feel welcome, but I also want my family to accept who you are. I don't want to change you. I love who you are. We started crafting a plan on how to navigate family events moving forward. It required us to engage with his family together, perhaps starting with a casual dinner where I could prepare a few vegan dishes while they shared their favorites. The idea was to create a space where we could share our lifestyles without feeling judged, ultimately allowing a blend of traditions and values to shine. The conclusion. As weeks turned into months, things started improving. The discussions became less about changing each other and more about embracing our differences. The next family gathering went surprisingly well. I prepared healthy choices alongside traditional dishes. I wore something vibrant that aligned with my ideals yet felt festive. Alex proudly stood by my side, introducing me as someone who brought new ideas to the table. As I look back on that wedding day filled with tension, I see it as a turning point. The experience opened avenues for conversations that promised growth. Ultimately, I hope to forge deeper connections, learn from one another, and align our lives without compromising our core identities. I've learned that while I may have felt like the odd one out initially, sometimes it takes a shared effort to find harmony in a diverse family landscape, and that's a journey worth embarking on together. So, Aitia? Maybe a little, but I'm working on it. Aita for excluding my family from my wedding. Background: I'm a 28-year-old woman named Sarah, and I recently got engaged to my partner of 3 years, Jake. We're both excited about our upcoming wedding, planning it to be an intimate affair, focusing on love and connection over grand displays. My parents had a tumultuous relationship, full of ups and downs, which contributed to a chaotic family environment growing up. While I've always loved my parents, their toxicity, especially their constant bickering and drama, led me to make a crucial decision regarding my wedding plans. The setup. The wedding planning started off sweetly, with Jake and I putting together a small guest list. My vision was to have a ceremony with only our closest family and friends, around 30 people, which included my sister, my best friend from college, and Jake's parents and siblings. The moment I envisioned was one filled with laughter and genuine love. A week into planning, I called my mom to share the news about the engagement. She was overjoyed, but the conversation quickly took a downward spiral as she began to express her thoughts about the wedding. Instead of sharing in my happiness, she launched into a rant about how she envisioned my wedding would be. A big, extravagant affair with all distant relatives and family friends involved. I tried to keep the conversation positive, but she just wouldn't let it go. My father, on the other hand, is known for being gruff and dismissive. He seldom praises me and often tries to undermine my decisions. Every family gathering is filled with tension, where he critiques me or brings up moments from my childhood that I've long since learned to accept as part of my past. The conflict. During the weeks that followed, I felt more pressure mounting, particularly from my mother. She called incessantly, trying to convince me to invite more family members. It reached a peak when she suggested that my wedding was too small, claiming, "Weddings are meant to be big family gatherings. What will people say?" I reached a breaking point when my parents requested a meeting to talk about the wedding. To my dismay, instead of being supportive, they made it clear that they felt entitled to dictate the guest list and the overall feel of the wedding. It was a low point. I expressed how important it was for me to have a small, intimate ceremony that focused on the people I truly care about, not an obligation to appease distant family that I barely knew. My mother responded with a barrage of accusations, calling me selfish and claiming that I was ruining family traditions. My dad, in typical fashion, stayed quiet for most of the argument, but chimed in with the comment, "You'll regret this when you're older and alone." As soon as I heard those words, a wave of realization struck me. I had to stand my ground, even if it meant going against my parents. The decision. A few days later, after talking with Jake, we decided to go through with our original plan. We began sending out the invitations, making it clear that our wedding would be a small celebration. When my parents received their invitation, they were furious. The backlash was intense. My mother called me in tears, saying that we had dishonored the family. While my father didn't speak to me for a week, the family drama didn't stop there. My relatives began contacting me, expressing their dismay over our guest list. "Why would you do this? We're family," they claimed, trying to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. I felt so drained from the emotional turmoil that I almost caved, but I reminded myself that this day was about my love for Jake, not my family drama. The ultimate showdown. A few weekends later, my mother and father decided to drive 4 hours to confront me in person. They showed up unannounced, anger glistening in their eyes. My mother immediately began shouting about how I was selfish and disrespectful for going against family expectations. My father, standing beside her with his arms folded, added his usual dismissive observations. I let them vent their frustrations for a bit, but eventually I stood my ground. "This is my wedding, not a family reunion," I said firmly, my voice unwavering. "If you cannot support me in this, then I don't envision how you'll be part of my day." The argument peaked when my dad said, "You'll regret this and we'll see how alone you are when you finally realize your mistake." It felt like a dagger to my heart, but I held firm. I calmly told them that the decision was made, and I acknowledged that they might not agree. Whatever their feelings, I could not compromise my happiness for fear of their opinion. In that moment of confrontation, my heart raced, but I felt liberated too. It was a pivotal moment in my adult life, a realization that I could prioritize my own happiness, even if it meant distancing myself from toxicity. The aftermath. Once the wedding date approached, the fallout became even more visible. My parents didn't come to the ceremony, and instead they posted disparaging comments about me on social media and communicated with family members to voice their grievances. Meanwhile, many of my close family members and friends respected my decision and were supportive, emphasizing that they understood how important it was for me to create a positive atmosphere. The big day arrived, and despite a few anxious thoughts about my parents' absence, I proceeded with the ceremony, surrounded by love and joy. It was everything me and Jake wished for, intimate and beautiful. We danced, laughed, and celebrated without the fear of judgment hovering over us. In the following weeks, my parents reached out a couple more times, mostly through passive-aggressive texts trying to guilt-trip me into reconciling. They made vague threats about my future and questioned whether I had truly made the right decision. I kept my responses brief and polite, never engaging in their attempts to escalate the situation further. The reflection. Now, months later, I've come to terms with my decision. Yes, my parents are hurt, but I can't let their feelings dictate my happiness. The experience taught me about the importance of boundaries and self-advocacy. The support I received from those attending my wedding resolved my lingering doubts. I still love my family, but realize I must take care of my mental well-being first. Aita for excluding my family from my wedding. Conclusion. As I submit this story to Aita, I'm looking for clarity and perhaps a sense of understanding from all of you. Did I make the right choice? Should I have let my parents play a role in my special day, despite the potential for toxicity? I'm left questioning if it would have been better to compromise for the sake of family, but at what cost? Thank you for hearing my story. AETA for choosing my biological children. Over my stepchildren. Background: I, 36F, am a mother of 2 biological children, Sarah, 10F, and Leo, 7M. 3 years ago, I married Rob, 40AM, who has 2 children from his previous marriage, Ava, 15F, and Max, 12MM. The transition to being a blended family has been complicated. The kids don't always get along, and there have been numerous tensions. Rob and I have worked hard to create a functional family unit. However, every holiday and school break have become a battleground. Ava often feels neglected due to my focus on my smaller children, and Max has a persistent attitude that reflects his frustrations at being a stepchild. I genuinely love my stepchildren, but I tend to prioritize my biological kids, especially since they are still at an age where they require more attention and guidance. The incident. Last month was our annual family vacation, which we had initially planned together months in advance. Each year we alternate who picks the destination. This year was my turn. I chose a resort with activities suitable for both younger and older kids, thinking it would be a fair choice. Rob was on board, but I sensed resistance from Ava and Max. Leading up to the trip, they wanted to go to a mountain cabin, which is not what I envisioned for the family. On the day of our trip, Ava came down with a cold. I saw her draping herself on the couch with a tissue box close at hand. The moment I discussed whether we should go or change plans, she jumped in with, "Don't worry about me, I'll just stay here. You guys go have fun." I felt torn. I didn't want to leave her behind, but I also didn't want to take my 2 younger kids back to where they'd be bored. Rob stuck to his position, saying it was up to us if we wanted to go, and advised that I keep the plans as they were. Factoring in Ava's age and how she would likely sulk if she missed out, I finally decided we would go, and Ava could stay home with her mom. I made arrangements for her to spend the week at her aunt's place, which I thought was a decent compromise. After all, I had planned the activities around Sarah and Leo, who would miss out if we didn't go. Reactions. The moment we arrived at the resort, I received a call from Rob's ex-wife, Kathy. She was furious. Apparently, Ava had expressed heartbreak at being left out. I explained our rationale, but Kathy made it clear she thought I was playing favorites and being downright cruel. Even though I understood her concern, the situation left me feeling overwhelmed. When Ava found out we were at the resort without her, she sent me a series of texts voicing her disappointment. I wound up having to put my phone on silent to enjoy family activities with Sarah and Leo. As the week progressed, Rob seemed increasingly distant. He kept mentioning that I didn't consider how Ava might feel, which made me feel both guilty and frustrated. I understood that being a stepmom doesn't always come with the same unconditional love that biological parents might feel, but I Thought I was entitled to have fun too. Post-trip fallout. Upon returning home, tensions reached a boiling point. Ava lashed out by refusing to talk to me and directed her anger at Leo, taking it out on him during a family dinner. That night, Rob and I had a huge argument. He accused me of putting my kids ahead of his, and I retaliated by saying that he never acknowledges the challenges I face as a stepmom, like blending different needs and personalities. A few days later, I decided to reach out to Ava. I wrote her a heartfelt message, apologizing for her feelings of neglect. I explained that I didn't mean to hurt her or to show favoritism. I just wanted to enjoy time with my biological kids in an environment tailored to their interests, while still making sure she wouldn't feel completely abandoned. The dilemma. I received a text from Ava saying that she still felt that way, and so did Max. Not long after, Rob came to me again, reiterating that I should shape up or things between us would be strained. It felt like I was walking on eggshells. All I wanted was for us to be a happy family, but every attempt seemed to backfire. I was frustrated because it felt like no matter how hard I tried, being a stepmom would always be an uphill battle. Then the topic of my previous decisions resurfaced, and I was left questioning whether I truly had been the asshole in prioritizing my biological children. Seeking input, facing an emotional crossroads, I decided to turn to Reddit's community for clarity and advice. I posted my story, hoping to find perspective on whether it was fair for me to focus on my biological children's needs versus the feelings of my stepchildren. The responses. The comments varied widely. Many users echoed sentiments that I had, neglected the feelings of my stepchildren, and suggested I should strive for a more equitable balance in my approach to parenting. Others empathized with my struggles, reinforcing that it's difficult to blend families and suggesting that I shouldn't feel guilty about prioritizing my younger children's immediate needs. One comment hit me harder than the rest. Your kids are young, and while blended family dynamics are challenging, sometimes you need to consider the ages and maturity levels of everyone involved. It stung, but it also made sense. My biological children still had years of dependency ahead, while Ava and Max were growing up fast. Taking action. From that moment, I decided to initiate family therapy and include both Ava and Max in that journey. I talked to Rob about scheduling regular family meetings to discuss our feelings and make long-term plans that involve everyone equally, regardless of biological ties. We agreed on the importance of having one-on-one time with each child without making anyone feel neglected, but I still felt the need to prioritize Sarah and Leo occasionally while addressing Ava and Max's emotional needs. Final thoughts. The blended family journey is still a work in progress, but I no longer feel alone. Managing these dynamics, I'm slowly realizing that being a stepmom doesn't mean sacrificing my own children's happiness, nor does it mean I can completely disregard other feelings in the household. In the end, I decided to make a sincere effort to be a positive influence, rather than getting caught up in the guilt and accusations. We're slowly realizing that we're all learning together, one step at a time, and each of us matters in our unique way. Was I an a-hole for prioritizing my biological kids in that moment? Maybe. I'm still figuring it out, and I hope that Ava, Max, and I can eventually find common ground. Hater for not attending my sister's wedding after the way she treated me. Background. My name is Kai, and I'm a 28-year-old graphic designer living in a small town. I have an older sister, Mia, who is 30, and we've had a strained relationship for most of our lives. Growing up, Mia was always the golden child. She excelled in school, had a wide circle of friends, and was generally the center of attention in our family. Meanwhile, I was more of a behind-the-scenes type. I was artistic but somewhat introverted, which in my family was often overshadowed by Mia's accomplishments. Despite our differences, I always loved Mia and wanted to be close to her. However, she often belittled my interests and dreams. During high school, when I expressed a desire to attend art school, she scoffed, saying I should be more practical and pursue a real job. Over the years, these comments and similar experiences piled up, and while I tried to brush them off, they took a toll on our relationship. Fast forward to 2 years ago, Mia got engaged to Jake, a great guy who treats her well. They set a wedding date for this June, and as soon as the news broke, Mia became increasingly focused on the big day. She seemed to forget to invite me into any of the planning, and when I gently asked how I could help, she brushed it off, saying they had everything under control. The conflict. 3 months before the wedding, the tension boiled over. Mia called to tell me that she had hired a professional wedding planner. During the call, she mentioned that she was trying to keep the event as pure as possible and didn't want to mix up her plans with my creative ideas. I felt hurt and unimportant. After sending her a few encouraging messages in the following weeks, hoping to reconnect, I got a text from her calling me too sensitive and needy. I finally snapped and confronted her. "You know, Mia, I'm really excited for your wedding, but I wish you would include me, or at least show me some support too," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. She laughed. "What do you want me to do, Kai? Make you a bridesmaid just because you want to feel special? It's not my fault that you can't get your life together. Just stay out of my way and let me have my dream wedding." That was the final straw for me. Her words cut deeper than I thought possible. I hung up feeling crushed and decided I didn't want to attend the wedding, not out of spite, but because I didn't want to force a smile while feeling so undermined. A few weeks later, I got the invitation in the mail. I stared at it for a long time, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. Ultimately, I made my decision and texted Mia. "I won't be attending your wedding." Her response was immediate. "Are you serious? You're just going to bail on me like this? After all I've done to include you?" It was in that moment I knew the distance between us was greater than I realized. Mia and I exchanged a few more texts filled with misunderstandings and accusations, with her claiming that I was being dramatic and insensitive, while I felt justified in my decision to prioritize my mental well-being. The aftermath. Days turned into weeks, and while I avoided social media to dodge the wedding updates, I heard from our parents who tried to convince me to attend. They insisted Mia had no idea how much her words had hurt me, and that I simply needed to be the bigger person. "Your family," Dad said. "You don't just abandon family during important times." Meanwhile, my closest friends backed me up, suggesting that my sister owed me an apology, and attending the wedding wouldn't change our history. They shared their own experiences of familial conflict, which made me feel less alone, but didn't resolve my predicament. As the wedding approached, I had a sinking feeling that I was making the wrong choice. I couldn't shake the sense of loss, not just for the wedding event itself, but for the sisterly bond I desperately wanted to have. I missed the times when we laughed together, when her eyes held kindness instead of judgment. I thought about how I would never have a proper chance to confront her about our history, about the hurt she caused, and whether I had misunderstood her intentions. A week before the wedding, I was scrolling through social media, and I stumbled upon a photo of Mia and Jake at their engagement party, where all my family and mutual friends were celebrating together. They all looked so happy. I was struck by a wave of guilt mixed with anger. Would I always feel like an outsider, even at family functions? What if this wedding was the final nail in our relationship's coffin? The day of the wedding. The day of the wedding arrived, and while I sat in my apartment contemplating my choice, a part of me felt like I should show up. But the emotional weight of our last conversation, coupled with the years of frustration, held me back. I spent the day alone, sketching and attempting to distract myself. Even so, I was glued to my phone, scrolling through updates as the ceremony unfolded. When the first photos start appearing of Mia in her stunning wedding dress, and the one photo I couldn't ignore showed her surrounded by friends and family, I felt a pang of regret. The caption read, "Best day of my life." That night, amidst my swirling thoughts, I received a phone call from Mia. It seemed to go on forever as she accused me of being selfish and ruining our relationship over my insecurities. She mentioned how our family was disappointed in me and how I had hurt her by not being there. Hearing it all vocalized made me question everything. Maybe she was right. Perhaps I had been too proud and missed out on a significant milestone. Yet, there remained a tiny voice inside, telling me that it was okay to prioritize my mental health. The argument stayed unresolved, with neither of us willing to yield. The resolution. 2 weeks after the wedding, I finally reached out to Mia. I sent her a heartfelt letter, explaining my feelings and acknowledging the hurt we both had caused each other over the years. I expressed a desire to reconcile and rebuild our relationship, focusing on the love we shared rather than the hurtful past. Her reply took time, but eventually I received a text. "Can we talk?" We met for coffee, and our conversation was awkward yet enlightening. We shared stories of our experiences and how we had felt isolated from each other. Surprisingly, Mia expressed remorse for her earlier comments. She admitted that planning the wedding had consumed her, and she hadn't realized how much she was unintentionally pushing me away. We spent hours talking that day, laughing, crying, and sharing what we needed from each other moving forward. It wasn't an easy process, but it marked the beginning of a long-needed improvement in our relationship. Final thoughts. In the end, I learned that family dynamics are complex and can often lead to hurtful interactions. The distance between Mia and me had made us both act in ways that hurt instead of healed. While I initially felt justified in my decision to skip the wedding, I now realize that honesty, vulnerability, and finding common ground were essential in rebuilding the sisterly bond I had longed for. So, Aita, for prioritizing my mental health. By not attending the wedding, or was my sister, who claimed to be focused solely on her big day, equally at fault for not recognizing my feelings? Edit for clarity. Thanks for all the feedback, everyone. I realize now that it's essential to maintain open communication rather than jump to conclusions. I hope others in similar situations learn from my experience. Family can hurt, but they can also heal.